So usually we listen to IMDb, and if it's under a certain rating, we don't watch it. But for some reason, this ended up on someone's like top 10 of the year list, and I was like, wow, really? And I went to the IMDb, and it was a 2.9, and I was like, 2.9? Geez, how did this end up on someone's list? And Kaylee and I were like busy doing something in the room, and I was like, screw it, I'll throw it on. So this is about a group of friends who go to a remote lodge in snowy climate.
Mm-hmm.
A blizzard breaks out and they lose power, and it's a survival movie. They don't have any way of contacting anyone. It's super cold outside, and they're running out of firewood. They're running out of food, and yeah, the movie, okay, it's not good. It's not a 2.9.
No,
That's
it's
low.
not that low.
I'd say it's in the fours. I'd say it's
Yeah.
like a low 4. That seems accurate for this kind of movie. I think the biggest issue is like, number one, it kind of feels very uneventful, even though that there is stuff going on. For some reason, I think it's the acting. Even though I don't think it's particularly terrible or anything. I don't think it's like C grade acting. It's all kind of just fine.
Yeah.
But the characters are kind of one note and fairly lame. There's not really much going on. Their chemistry with each other as friends is fine.
Yeah.
I find that they're friendly enough, and I do feel like they kind of know each other, so I don't knock them there. I just don't think that they're all that interesting together. It's very generic when it comes to pretty much everything in the film. And as far as like their survival goes, all of that stuff just is kind of blah.
Yeah.
They are trying to pose this idea that maybe something supernatural is going on, or is it in their head because they're like, hypothermic. This reminds me of a movie like Frozen, right? Not the Disney one, obviously. The Adam Green film where they're stuck in the ski, chair. I don't know. It's not horrendous or anything. It's just kind of there. And then it ends on this thing where you're like, oh, yeah, like they're trying to kind of do a twist thing, and you're like,
yeah,
whatever.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I figured.
Right.
Stupid.
Yeah, I was not into this movie very much. I don't know. I just couldn't really get into it. Like, it wasn't drawing me in. I felt like, although the acting was whatever and like the chemistry was okay as far as the friendship goes, I wasn't that interested in the story because I didn't really feel like it was doing anything new, and I didn't feel like what it was doing with like the sort of like old story tropes, I didn't feel like that was being done like super well.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I just feel kind of blah about it.
Yeah.
Like, it's not terrible. It's definitely a watchable film, and
barely.
But it's just not. I just wasn't interested in it. I don't know. We watched a lot of other cool like Christmassy, wintry horror movies today.
Yeah.
So I much prefer all the other ones that we watched to this one.
Yeah.
So
for sure.
Yeah, it's not really a recommendation.
I threw it on probably because it's Christmas time.
Yeah.
And it's in the snow, and someone had on their top 10, and I wanted to, bring a 2.9 to the channel and be like, you guys are wrong.
Sure.
And here's why.
We love when we can do that.
I do think you're wrong, though. I don't think this is a 2.9. That's insane. 2.9 is like garbage.
Yeah, it's not garbage at all.
That's like the worst acting, the worst story, the worst premise, the worst everything imaginable. You don't get into the 2s unless you're like almost Mystery Science Theater 3000 level. Like, it's not like that.
Yeah.
This is just kind of a generic blah movie that you watch and forget. While it's on, you're like kind of interested, sort of, and you're like, okay, it's kind of okay. And then it keeps going. You're like, I kind of don't give a shit. And that's just it. So that's like the biggest thing when it comes to survival movies, right? Take a movie like Nowhere, which is one of my favorite films of this year and one of the most overlooked and underappreciated films of 2023, in my opinion. That's a survival movie through and through. And it keeps you engaged because not only do they set up this character as very likable and you want her to get through it,
Yeah.
but also the problems that they're presenting within the film are super engaging,
Yes.
super challenging,
Yeah.
super interesting. And the way she handles those problems is like very like fist pumping and like yes and oh shit, right? And there's this tension that's built this whole time. In this movie, they just kind of meander around and they're cold and they're doing stupid things. And it's like, you know, at some point you're like, the guy's still trying to protect his dad's stuff. And you're like, dude,
Like
you're dying.
Yeah.
Like, and they don't set up a relationship with the dad where maybe he's fearing the dad would kill him if anything happened to his house or anything.
Yeah.
You know, it's
And
stuff like that.
established.
It's just, there's nothing going on character-wise that's interesting. They try to set up this like unrequited love, right? And how that's going to affect them. And they try to do all this stuff with people who feel like they are hallucinating and there's going to be interesting things there and they could work with that visually and show you a lot of cool, different, unique things, right? It just doesn't do it, right? And if you want to see something that has perfect atmosphere set in the snow, probably one of my favorite atmospheric snow set pieces that I've ever watched in my entire life, and it's just the beginning of the movie. The whole rest of the movie is amazing as well, but the first like 25 minutes of The Empty Man is
so
like
good.
the perfect survival atmospheric example of how you do horror correctly. I mean, The Thing is an obvious go-to, right? But if you're just talking about pure, like, I'm freezing, I'm cold, there is an added element, right, of something that's outside. But fuck, I love that movie so much.
So
and then
good.
I look at something like this, where they're in the snow and they're cold, and it's I'm just so bored.
Yeah.
Right? But I would never, literally from the second Empty Man starts, there's something ominous. There's something going on there. There's something like that's like lingering in the air. There's a thickness. This like within seconds. It's the score. It's the way shots are framed. It's the isolation feel. Like this film never. They just feel like they're in a house that could be anywhere. It could be next door to someone. They don't properly utilize the idea of isolation. They just make it seem like a bunch of dumb kids who don't know how to protect themselves and take care of themselves to stay warm. And they don't really ever try to do anything to survive that's all that intelligent. And kind of everything they do, you just kind of roll your eyes at. So yeah, it's just, that's it, right? Snow falls. You know, don't pick it up. It fell, leave it where it's at.
On the ground.
All right.